Open a history book, and they will tell you the worst economic disaster in modern history was the Great Depression of 1929. They show you pictures of soup lines. They tell you stories of men traveling across the country just to pick apples for pennies. They tell you, be thankful you don't live in those times. But they are lying to you. If you look at the raw data, not the manipulated numbers the government feeds you, but the real math, you will discover a terrifying truth. The average American in 2026 is structurally poorer than the average American during the Great Depression. In 1930, at the height of the Depression, the average home cost 3 times the average salary. Today, it costs 10 times the average salary. In 1930, a family could survive on a single income. Today, 2 incomes are barely enough to rent a 2-bedroom apartment. We are living in a silent depression. It is silent because there are no breadlines on the street. Instead, the breadlines are digital. They are hidden in credit card debt, in buy now, pay later apps used to buy groceries, and in the quiet desperation of millions who work 60 hours a week and still cannot afford to save a single dollar. The media tells you the economy is strong because the stock market is up. But the stock market is not the economy. It is a measure of how much wealth has been siphoned from you to them. Over the next 20 minutes, we are going to dismantle the lies. We will show you how the definition of inflation was changed to hide your poverty. We will show you why earning 6 figures is the new minimum wage. And we will prove that this is not an accident. It is a controlled demolition of your quality of life. How do you hide a depression? You change the definition of the words. In the 1980s, the government realized they had a problem. Prices were rising too fast. If they reported the real inflation numbers, people would panic. Interest rates would have to skyrocket, which would bankrupt the government. So they did what every corrupt regime does. They changed the math. They introduced something called hedonic adjustments and substitution into the consumer price index. Here is how it works. If the price of steak goes up by 50%, they assume you will switch to hamburger meat. So, they don't count the price of steak rising. They count the price of the hamburger you were forced to eat. They literally measure your downgrade in quality of life and call it stable prices. If we calculated inflation today using the same formula used in 1980, inflation wouldn't be 3% or 4%. It would be over 15% year after year. This is why you feel crazy. The news tells you inflation is cooling down, but your grocery bill has doubled. Your rent has doubled. Your insurance has tripled. You are being gaslighted on a national scale. They are peeing on your leg and telling you it's raining. The official numbers are not data. They are propaganda designed to keep you calm while they loot your purchasing power. But where is the money going? If you are getting poorer, someone else must be getting richer. Wealth doesn't disappear, it transfers. This brings us to the most important economic concept you were never taught in school, the Cantillon effect. When the central bank prints $3 trillion to save the economy, that money doesn't get dropped from helicopters evenly to everyone. It goes to the top first. It goes to the big banks, the hedge funds, and the mega corporations. They get the money before inflation hits. They use this free cash to buy hard assets like houses, stocks, gold, and farmland. By the time that money trickles down to your wages, prices have already skyrocketed. You are playing a rigged game where the dealer gets the cards a week before you do. This is why the billionaire class doubled their wealth during the pandemic, while the middle class was wiped out. It wasn't business genius, it was proximity to the money printer. The silent depression is actually a massive wealth transfer mechanism. Every time they print money to fund a war or bail out a bank, they are stealing value directly from your savings account. Inflation is a tax that you never voted for, and it is a tax that hits the poor the hardest. In a healthy capitalist system, competition drives prices down. If a burger is too expensive, another restaurant opens and sells it cheaper. But we do not live in capitalism anymore. We live in corporate feudalism. Look at the grocery store. You see hundreds of brands. It looks like a free market, but flip the boxes over. You will see that almost everything is owned by less than 10 massive conglomerates. And who owns those conglomerates? Once again, the big three: BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. When 3 companies own the majority of the market, they don't need to compete. They can agree to raise prices together. This is called greedflation. They use the excuse of inflation to raise prices far above their costs, resulting in record-breaking profits while you struggle to feed your family. They have cornered the market on survival. Food, energy, housing, healthcare. These are not optional. You have to pay. And because they own the competition, you have nowhere else to go. You are a captive consumer in a monopoly board where one player owns all the properties. How do people survive this? If wages haven't kept up with the cost of living for 50 years, how is society still functioning? The answer is debt. The system bridged the gap between your income and your survival by lending you money. They replaced wages with credit. 40 years ago, you didn't need a credit card to buy groceries. Today, it's normal. 40 years ago, college could be paid for with a summer job. Today, students graduate with a mortgage-sized debt before they even own a house. This is the final stage of the silent depression. The population has been turned into debt serfs. When you are in debt, you are not free. You cannot protest. You cannot take risks. You cannot quit your job. You must keep working to service the interest. They have normalized a life where you own nothing and owe everything. The modern worker is running just to stay in the same place. And this leads us to the most crushing aspect of the silent depression, the death of homeownership and the rise of the renter class. For generations, owning a home was the bedrock of financial freedom. It was the only way a normal family could build equity. But that door has been slammed shut, nailed shut, and sold to a private equity firm. You are not just competing with other families anymore. You are competing with multi-billion-dollar algorithms. Wall Street realized that they could make more money by turning you into a permanent tenant than by letting you be an owner. They are buying entire neighborhoods, outbidding you with all-cash offers, and then renting those same houses back to you at double the price. This is the return of feudalism. In the Middle Ages, the lords owned the land and the serfs worked the land, giving a portion of their harvest to the lord just to survive. Today, the lords are corporations, and the harvest is your paycheck. You are paying a subscription fee to exist. They want a world where you own nothing. Not your house, not your car, not even your digital media. And you are happy about it. But you are not happy. You are stressed, you are tired, and you are broke. They have engineered a society where social mobility is dead, and your only function is to funnel your monthly income into their passive income portfolios. This is not a market cycle. This is a takeover. But there is a question that haunts everyone who looks at this data. If the economic situation is truly worse than the Great Depression, why aren't there riots in the streets? Why aren't people burning down the banks? In 1930, there was chaos. Today, there is silence. The answer lies in an ancient Roman strategy, panem et circenses, bread and circuses. The emperors knew that you can take away a man's freedom, you can take away his future, and you can even tax him to death. As long as you fill his belly with cheap grain and distract his mind with entertainment, he will never revolt. Today, the circus is not a gladiator fight, it is in your pocket. The system has mastered the art of cheap dopamine. Notice a pattern? While the cost of real assets, houses, land, gold, quality food has skyrocketed, the cost of digital distraction has collapsed. You cannot afford a home, but you can afford a 65-inch 4K TV. You cannot afford to raise 3 children, but you can afford a Netflix subscription, a VR headset, and unlimited video games. This is not a coincidence. This is the anesthesia. They have replaced the American dream with the digital dream. They are building a metaverse not because it is cool, but because a virtual life is cheaper than a real life. In the virtual world, you can feel rich. You can own a digital mansion. You can be a hero. But when you take off the headset, you are still renting a shoebox apartment, eating processed sludge, with 0 assets to your name. They are trading your real-world sovereignty for a hit of dopamine. They keep you scrolling, clicking, and watching so you don't look up and realize the walls are closing in. A sedated population does not start a revolution. A distracted mind does not analyze the Federal Reserve. And this leads to the final trap. The digital lock on the cage. Central bank digital currencies, CBDC. Once the transition to a renter class is complete, and once the cash economy is destroyed, they will introduce programmable money. If you are dependent on the state for your survival, and your money is digital, they own you completely. Imagine a world where your money expires if you don't spend it. Imagine a savings account that can be turned off if your carbon footprint is too high or your political opinions are incorrect. This is why the depression is silent. It is silent because the victims are hypnotized. They have made the cage so comfortable, filled with so many screens and distractions, that you haven't realized you are a prisoner. Until now. The first step to solving a problem is admitting it exists. You are not crazy, you are not lazy, and you are not alone. The economy is broken, and it was broken on purpose. The silent depression is real, but you do not have to be a victim of it. The system wants you to hold their dying currency. Do the opposite. Hold real assets, gold, silver, land, Bitcoin, anything that they cannot print. The system wants you dependent on debt. Do the opposite. Live below your means, destroy your debt, and starve the banks of their interest payments. The system wants you to believe their fake data. Do the opposite. Trust your eyes, trust your wallet. They are counting on you to stay asleep, to accept this new normal of slow impoverishment. Do not accept it. The economy of the future belongs to those who build, those who own, and those who refuse to play by rigged rules. This is the hidden economy. We are here to validate your reality and give you the tools to fight back. Share this video, wake up your neighbors. Because the depression is only silent if we refuse to speak about it.